welcome to our talk this morning with the playwrights. We're so honored to have them here with us. I am Lisa Peterson. Lisa Peterson and Dennis O'Hare are the playwrights, and Lisa is with us right now, and Dennis is going to be joining us shortly. So I'm going to introduce Lisa. Lisa Peterson, playwright of an Iliad, is an American playwright and director who has directed new work by leading playwrights all over the country. She first became interested in theater, like many of us, in high school, and went to the Yale School of Drama. So she was no joke about her interest in theater, and she was pursuing acting when she fell in love with directing, which we're grateful that she did. She got her first big break, she says, when she adapted Virginia Woolf's The Waves into a musical with David Buckman. And she staged that show at New York Theater Workshop, where she received a Drama Desk nomination for her directorial work on that. She continued that relationship and went on to do much more work for them, and ended up winning an Obie Award in 1991 for other works. Heading out to West, Peterson became the associate director at La Jolla Playhouse. And 3 years later, she went to Mark Taylor Forum, where she served as the resident director from 1995 to 2005. She's a graduate of Yale College and a member of the executive board of the Directors Union, SDC. So thank you for doing that. Lisa, will you please join us? I'd love to have you. Come on. She's joining us from New York. Hi.
Hey, Brenda.
Good morning. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure.
This is so awkward at the Zoom, because if we were in our theater, we'd have all these people just, I'm assuming they're just beaming into their Zoom cameras right now.
Feel it.
You can feel it. I'm trying to imagine the 60 people that are out there right now. I just want to say thank you, and just start off by asking you how you are. How are you after this post-pandemic? How are you?
Oh, that's such a nice way to start. I'm okay. Yeah, thank you. I feel extremely lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get sick. My my family didn't get sick, and I actually, I was in a position where, though the work has stopped, like it has for all people in our field for the last 18 months now, I could still live, eat, have a roof over my head. And more than that, I was able to do a number of kind of interesting, call them pandemic projects,
Mm-hmm.
of all kinds. Most theater, you guys did this. Everyone punted, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I was able to do a radio play, an outdoor, like turn something into a drive-in.
Yeah.
Basically make a movie through Zoom. All sorts of interesting things. So I was able to stay creative, which I'm very grateful for, in addition to, being healthy. So, yeah.
It's amazing how here we produced a lot of stuff last year, all online, and then some stuff in our woods. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, necessity, mother of invention. Just what was available, and how can we continue to connect and tell stories. And
Oh, I love that phrase, producing in our woods.
Yeah. It is. You'll have to come visit sometimes. It is a whole thing.
Yeah.
First I want to talk about, it's funny, we all feel like we know this play, and it's so personal for those of us that have worked on it. And my first thought is,
hey,
hello,
Dennis.
Hi, welcome.
Dennis, hi. Because I sent you my link, you're named me.
You're Lisa Peterson as well.
You have to change your name, because I
don't have to.
You could stay. You just stayed Lisa Peterson. We can tell the difference. Oh, there, he changed.
I changed my name. Cool.
There you go. Thank you for joining us, Dennis. I want to at this morning, on this wonderful morning, because we have a couple shows in rep, right? We have a couple shows going right now. So we have a matinee going to happen in a couple hours up the hill. So this is like icing on the cake for us to have you here this morning. So thanks. I just wanted to say, Dennis O'Hare, for the people watching, we have a bunch of people on. We have about 65 people on right now. So Dennis I'm a fan, actor, also playwright on the Iliad, and developed this with your friend and colleague, Lisa. I've read a lot about that, and I want you guys to share a little bit about that. But Tony Award-winning actor, HBO, I just rewatched, just by chance, watched Dallas Buyers Club the other night.
Oh,
well done, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Well done. So I wanted to start out, just jump in, because it's so epic, and we do all kinds of classical theater here, and we really do appreciate the notion that a story is useful more than once if it's a great story, and that the play will speak to us as we speak to it if it's a great play. And we've done this play now twice in a 7-year period, and this team has done it 3 times. But I kept thinking to myself, how in the hell do you decide to do an adaptation of an epic tale like this and make it one person? Were you guys just reading the novel together or something? How did that happen?
Well, kind of. I mean,
Yeah.
we did. I mean, I had sort of two ideas. One was wanting to make a piece about being a country at war, and this was, sort of 2003, 2005, early days of our invasion of Iraq, and then I don't know. I was sitting in the theater at New York Theater Workshop on East 4th Street, which I've worked in a lot, and I find it an extremely inspiring space. I can just imagine things there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I had this, I had a feeling of wanting to get back to adaptation myself, which I hadn't done for a long time. And then I had this memory that our friend Morgan Jeunesse, who's a great dramaturg and a teacher, had said to me that she always starts teaching theater with Homer, with an Iliad. And that had provoked me because I had studied it, but as a work of literature. And she had made the argument, well, no, but it was really the first spoken word, So I'd done a little bit of research about this idea. So the solo idea came from the impulse of wanting to almost recreate, like dive into, investigate, and experience having the bard, a storyteller, tell you the story of the Trojan War.
But also, Lisa, I remember you telling me that you were in Oslo and you saw an actor do the Gospel according to St. Mark in Norwegian.
That's right.
And that you didn't understand a word of it, but that you still got it. And so your idea of having one actor with this great text, those 2 ideas kind of came together. Is that I remember you telling me that.
I forgot about that. I
Yeah.
completely forgot about that. That's right. In a way, this is ripped off from
Yeah.
that was a guy, a table, and a glass of water.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's right.
And it's funny because, then Lisa came to me, it must have been about 2004, Lisa, maybe it was 2003, I can't remember. And Lisa had hired me years ago in Chicago to do a play by Richard Greenberg called The Author's Voice, where I met one of my best friends, Lindy Emond. And
oh, I love Linda Emond.
yes.
You know her? Yeah.
No, we're old friends from Chicago, and we met on that show that Lisa cast me in, and then Lisa and I had stayed friends, but hadn't worked together professionally. And she called me up, and one of my rules is say yes to everything, because I think you both Austin Pendleton, who was a great inspiration for me, and Blair Brown are people who say yes to everything. And so Lisa said, "Do you want to sit down with me and read the Iliad?" I was like, "Yes." And, she was like, "Maybe we can make a show." And I was like, "Okay." And that was our plan. That was the only plan we had, was let's read it together. Let's figure out what we want to do. Nobody sponsored us. New York Theater Workshop gave us the kitchen. We used them heavily, but no one gave us money. Nobody, it was just us. And we grabbed time whenever we could. And we used a video camera to record not only our process, meaning our thoughts, but also what we called riffs. So
yes.
Lisa might say, "So you were reading about Paris. Who was Paris?" And then on camera, I would riff, or she would riff about Achilles. I remember having the camera on her about Achilles, and she riffed about Achilles and the horse. So, there was no plan, Lisa. Really, we didn't. It was sort of like there was no plan.
That's
It's
right.
amazing because one of my questions was to say it's the actor playing it said it feels so improvisational.
Yeah.
In the writing of it. It has the stutters, and then it has these trailing off questions that I'm dying to get the answer to, one of them, that you never finish the thought. And that improvisational feeling makes it really different for an actor to play, because it allows it to be a storytelling position that you're on stage inside of. But so I wanted to hear about, so it was improvisational in its origins.
It was, I do remember that I had, the reason that I called you, Dennis, is because I had the strong impulse that, because I do work with a lot of writers on new work, and I hadn't necessarily thought to myself, I want to adapt this. I thought, I want to work with an actor
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to, say, going to a writer and saying, would you adapt this for me or with me or anything like that? And because this was also, as what I was learning as I studied the Homeric tradition, that this was a piece that would classically vacillate between set forms, almost musical forms, and the teller responding to where they were in the moment, and just kind of so when I first talked to you, Dennis, I think I was saying, I'd like you to improvise the whole thing. Like, let's read it, talk about it, and then can you improvise it? Why don't you just improvise it?
That was our idea.
That was our idea.
Wow.
I work I'm a director who is very text-based.
Yep.
And ultimately I was afraid,
right,
I think, of improv. Dennis isn't afraid of it, but I was afraid. I didn't know how to make it happen. I didn't know how to structure it. I didn't know how to make it happen. So when Dennis brought the video camera in one day, it wasn't at the beginning. I mean, we really, I will say, we muddled. We had Morgan with us for the first at least year. We muddled around. We did not know how to do it. And then one day Dennis brought the camera and said, I don't know, Dennis likes to make films. And so you just brought it. And all of a sudden this method came to us that we realized, oh, we just recorded something that's interesting. What if we transcribe it? What does it look like then? And then we were able then I was able to do what is more comfortable for me, which is take the classical text and basically go, I love this, this I'm not so interested in, I love this, and start to build an adaptation of the classical material. And then we had all this other material that was really Dennis or me talking, and we're able to capture that with all its stutters and all of its weirdness.
And the funny thing is, if you flash forward to, we were doing it in Perth. We toured it a lot of places. We were touring it in Australia. We toured it in Perth. And one night in a performance, the line is, in the old days, we'd be in a tavern or a bar, I think what you call it. And I said, in the old days, we'd be in a tavern and the woman in the front row, she went, a pub. And I went, a pub. Exactly. And we suddenly went, oh my God, we need more of that. We need the audience to tell us where I am, because I'm in Australia and I don't know the answer. So that became a new method that we use, and we've toured it now in Chile, Cairo, Shanghai, Abu Dhabi, and our new, what's that?
Romania.
And our new method now is that we have now added to the improv aspect of it, sort of, in that we will learn what is the local language, what's the slang for pub, and then a little improv around that. And then Lisa and I will talk to a translator and have them translate the list of towns. These American towns. We've done that in Romanian. We've done it in Mandarin. We've done it in Spanish, in French, in Arabic, and we use place names from those cultures. So people in that audience get their places. They hear their land.
Yep.
And it's what Homer was doing with the list of ships.
Yep.
He was hitting them where they live. You guys know these places. You're from there. Your mom was born there. That's where you used to go on vacation. Yes. And it was like a dream. So Lisa, and we're not scared of improv because we still do it. We continue to.
We're getting closer to it the older we get.
I have to say that the actor doing it said to me that we were watching one night and he just said that he finds it to be incredibly present every night because the audience is what it is. And one night he said, what's the line? Have you seen a front line?
Yeah.
And have you seen a front line? And in the front row, this man said, yes. And he went, right. And I'm sure that's happened to you, Dennis, right? Where you, and then you take that in and now you're telling a story to a person who's already seen those things.
You take it.
So the lens in which we bring to watch this stuff. So now I understand you had Dennis in the room. And so you had this idea of improving with Dennis. And then you had to take this piece that had all of these amazing stories and all of these gods and all these stories. And then and the story that I take away from the story is like the Hector and Achilles story, right? Which is what is focused on in this
That
piece.
became the spine because we had to have some guiding idea that would allow us to get rid of other things because there's so much that we don't share. And actually, that was a few years into honestly into the process. I mean, they are the two main characters.
Yeah,
I
right.
would say they're the two primary characters, but along with the help of another very good dramaturg, Janice Perrin, we were able to sort of realize, oh, okay, we're going to let go of anything that is not Achilles or Hector,
Truly.
and we're going to think of these two characters as being set at each other, and that means the climax is them encountering each other, and they really are great foils for each other too, you know. So anyway, that when that realization came to us that we were focusing on just these two primary characters, it allowed the thing to kind of fall into place in a
Yeah, we
way.
had to cut some beautiful Patroclus stuff. You know, Patroclus was in it more. Cassandra was in it more.
Yeah.
Andromache, not more, but Hecuba was in it more. And we just had to keep, unfortunately, paring back because we kind of go, are these speeches, as great as they are, and these characters, are they adding to Hector's story or Achilles' story? And at certain points they weren't, you know.
And because I think one of the questions we were really asking each other as we were working was, what makes us fight? Like, why
Mm-hmm.
we fight? Because the basic impulse behind this was to understand, why did this country go to war again? And to ask people to just recognize that we were at war. My goodness, like yesterday, we've been in this war.
Afghanistan, yeah.
Yep. I think that sitting down and talking to people after the play is always a real privilege. And the last time we did it, we were closing and there was 5 vets. They were all Vietnam vets that I kept in touch, and they had come to see the play more than one time.
Oh.
They'd come back together, and it was clearly a spiritual experience for them, a kind of therapeutic and it was overwhelming to listen to them. And then I realized, like, when I'm watching it, the reason I'm so attracted to it is I'm obsessed with the notion in the classics especially, but in the notion of like that Hector contains both of those things. He contains the man that he's a good man, and then he tears Patroclus apart. At the core of it, like that conflict is the conflict I'm really interested in as an artist. As how many times you put that story out there of the complications of the trick of the blood, the complications of a human being that can do one thing and do another thing. And I just think it's brilliantly posed. And so people say a lot of times it's an anti-war play, and I say it's a real question for me. The kind of need to fight, the kind of need, the glorification, in a way, in my perspective, of Hector, the glorification of Achilles, the glorification of when they come to burn the village, we need to be able to save the village, and the nobility of that the actual he'd rather be taming horses. Like, that is heartbreaking to me. Yeah. So I'd love to hear what you guys, you know, when you hear it's an anti-war piece, if you heard that, I'm sure, or what you believe about that, or the conflicts of that in your minds.
You know, it's funny because the idea of glory for the ancient Greeks, I'm not sure that we can relate to that, and I'm not sure we can understand it in the way that they understood it. But I love Achilles, so, you know, and I'm pretty anti-war, and yet I love
Me too.
Love
Me
Achilles.
too.
Because Achilles to me is such a thorny character. Achilles is prophesied to get glory by being a great warrior.
Right.
That's his purpose of being alive.
That's why he's here.
And yet Agamemnon screws him. Agamemnon is the person who is going to destroy his reason for being alive, his destiny. And even that idea, the Greek idea of destiny, I think for us is hard to get. But it's like the thing you were raised thinking about yourself, the myth you have about your country, the myth you have about who you are, to have that challenged is so debilitating. And Achilles is that. Achilles is asked to reckon with massive questions, who he is. And he changes. Achilles has a moment with
Priam,
where he lets go of his rage, and that Achilles changes. That's an extraordinary growth. So that to me, That's why I think it is an anti-war play. I think the play is too big in a way, as is that story too big to be about one thing. Absolutely, it has elements of why do we go to war? And isn't war a waste? Lisa and I use that phrase, war is a waste. But ultimately, I think Achilles and Priam is much closer to the heart of, for me, that piece is about human beings confronting their own struggle with their own impulses.
Yep, I agree. I'm so excited. Lisa, please, anything?
Well, I think that I think it is a war play. It is about war, and it looks at it. I mean, even though it definitely came from an impulse like, why did we, the U.S., invade Iraq? I also honestly felt like we need to understand what it is costing the men and women who are doing it, and how can you do it, and where, anyway. So I always kind of counter. I think when people say it's an anti-war play, that makes me think, well, but we've really tried to have it be an examination and not just
Yes.
a read. We're not trying to make a point here except to say we should think about this. And so I say, yeah, no, it's a war play. Like, I mean, I had been reading, I had been looking at Mother Courage and her children. I have been sort of looking for all of the interesting plays about war at the time. And I think it's a play about human nature.
Yeah.
I will say, I do think it is very much about male energy, which is why I love a particular, I mean, your actor is fantastic. The muse and the presentation of the muse, she kind of just, Dennis, she just kind of walks, she has a punk aspect to her, and she just kind of like shows up, grabs a cello, but she feels, there's a wonderful aggression to her, which I really like. So I do think, in terms of it being a war story or an anti-war play, I do think it is examining to some extent testosterone.
Yeah, I
agree.
I'm in London here, and I'm lucky enough to be friends with Fiona Shaw, and we've been trying to get done in London for a long time, and I suddenly went, oh my God, maybe she'll do it. So I gave her the script and gave it to her, and I met with her, and we were talking about it. I said, do you want to do it? And she said, no, darling, this isn't my problem. I'm female. No problem.
Although I will say that there have been some American productions of this.
Yeah.
With women.
Where women play the poet, and it's really powerful.
And extraordinary productions. The one at Long Wharf recently.
Yeah, Whitney White directed it at Long Wharf with a young Black actress named Rachel Christopher, and it was, I mean, it takes on a different resonance with a woman in the center of it, but it's still interesting.
We do classical plays here a lot, so that's our repertoire. Like, our rep is classical, infused with traditionally Western canon plays, and so we struggle with the question all the time, every year, like, what is a classic? What makes a classic? Who decides what a classic is? Why is it a classic? Should it be a classic? And we're really, really trying to tear that open every year. It's a journey for us and so we have started a playwriting thing called Creating the Classics, and what we're looking for is adaptations or translations or this kind of discovery in the moment with an actor. We have actors involved in this every year, trying to figure out how to create another play that's based on themes that everyone calls universal, or this examination of the humanity of ourselves, which is at the core of every great piece of theater. But it's interesting when we get into those conversations and we bring up things like the Iliad. It's often about, and then where is Cassandra? Where are the women in these pieces? Where are their stories if we keep going back to these other stories? And it's a good tension. It's an important tension, I think, right now. It is the tension right now of our time. And I think that I'm excited to do this piece again at some point with a woman, or be able to see. So I've seen it about 5 different times, and every time it's with different actors. It's different every time.
We've been working now for the last 5 years or so on a piece that is, someday, we hope, a companion piece to an Iliad,
Please.
Is a solo for a woman.
Yep.
And starts with the story of it's basic. It's kind of loosely the Aeneid.
Oh, yeah.
It's about empire. I mean, but it picks up from the end of the end of the Trojan War. Not so much with Aeneas, but with his wife Creusa, who was left behind. And then it kind of takes on the perspective of Juno, who kind of makes Aeneas meet Dido, and causes the war that lands the Italian peninsula in the lap of Aeneas, and kind of picks up the traditions of the idea of mythical Troy, and builds a new civilization there. So
yeah.
And
I want to see this.
And our character is either she may be a goddess, or she might be an actress who thinks she's a goddess. But anyway, so yes, the female voice is because it's so missing from
sure.
an Iliad, and it's missing from our Iliad too. We were just really hungry to say, well, let's give ourselves the female point of view in this next story.
You just made my daughter really happy.
Oh, good.
That play is called The Song of Rome, and we've just finished our second draft of it, and that's our dream, to do it in companionship with an Iliad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea. I'm really look forward to reading that. I could talk to you guys all day and not ever let anyone else ask you a question, but I do have one more question. What the hell is it, if you have to tell me, when he says Hector is he's a lot like.
I knew you were going to ask that. It's so funny.
He's a lot like. Yeah.
Well, do you go, Dennis? I think we may have different answers.
I'm sure
we have different answers, for a lot of things, and for me, the backstory for the poet is very important, but very hidden.
Right.
So, and for me, the backstory of the poet is, for me, the fact that he's doomed to repeat this tale throughout time, and is always seeing the same person. He's always seeing the same 24-year-old guy who may or may not be like his son, who he lost, who may or may not be like someone he couldn't reach at some point. So it's the idea of, and it's in the list of wars when he says terrible hot day during the battle of Sargon. The battle of, because he's looking for that guy. He watched this guy being dragged behind a chariot, and it reminds me of that moment. And that face keeps morphing into the same 24-year-old who's different. He's Armenian, he's African, he's Asian, but it's the same spirit, the same 24-year-old who had a life ahead of him. So for me, it's that witnessing again and again and again of that terrible waste of a young person. And that's, to me, sort of what it is. And he has one image in his mind, which, again, I won't share because it's my private image, but that's the one that he has in his mind.
And I think that Dennis's explanation of what is in Dennis's mind actually works in perpetuity. But I will say that when I think that might have been, we never really can remember who wrote what, which is
that's a good sign. It's a great sign.
It's kind of incredible. But I believe I know what I was thinking about. Because we were writing this while Barack Obama was president.
Yeah.
Right on. For the most part. I mean, we started it when Bush was president. So that there was a moment where we thought, well, we started this when Bush 2 was president. When Barack Obama became president, we thought for a moment, does this still matter?
Right.
Does the play still matter? Yeah.
Does it matter?
Oh gosh, I wish I could say it doesn't, but yeah, it does.
I know.
Still, yeah.
So, I remember for some reason thinking about what I felt like I could feel, I could see in our president, this kind of the weight of the presidency and his struggle and his goodness, his essential goodness, innate goodness, and just the weight of it. So I always thought he's a lot like Or-
Yeah.
That's so fun. I can't wait to tell our actor that, just to tell the actor we're done with the show.
I would play that sometimes. I would honor that by playing it sometimes. It didn't work when we were in foreign countries because, you know, it wasn't universal, but
Exactly.
Right
And
on.
it wouldn't work now. It only worked when he was president.
Right.
Because it only worked in the moment. That's why I'm saying, Dennis, I think, well, you've done whatever works. And I think your idea is very personal and therefore will always work. And my idea was topical.
yeah.
And I think in my mind, it was very moving then for the poet to realize, oh, I think you have a leader like this right now.
Right.
I think, in fact, you do. Yeah.
I mean, you know, speaking of that, we were doing it, was it Boston, Lisa? We were doing it in Boston again. And I started going down to Trump Road with Agamemnon.
Yeah.
Remember, I started doing that Trump, which it was kind of, but the thing is that, you know, you don't have to do an impersonation for people in the audience to have their imaginations fill in the blank.
Yes.
That's the hope, right? I mean, the hope all the time is that the metaphor itself is pretty present, I think. And it is, because the writing is so strong. I mean, the writing is so, I cannot tell you, I read, as a person who reads a lot of pieces that are language driven, and we are committed to poetry. That's the bottom line. We are committed to the power and transformation of poetry in people's lives, that how it makes sense of things we can't make sense of. And this piece is just a gorgeous piece of poetry, and it's epic. It's one of my favorite things we've ever produced. It's my favorite plays, and I appreciate it so much. And the years you allowed yourself to develop it, what a gift. And I wish everybody could make plays like that. I think that would be the goal, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And you say yes all the time. So why don't you come and do something here, Dennis? Since you always say yes, I'm going to be calling and saying, here, come on, say yes.
I'm in Paris now. You just got to get me there.
Okay. All right. Got it. I'm on it. The last thing I was going to say is that there's a question I have about the piece that is, do you think that, I mean, what did the poet ever do to the gods that he got pushed to this place and got put in this unending story?
What did Prometheus do? What did
Yes, what did Sisyphus do?
what did
Yes.
Sisyphus do? I think the gods don't necessarily have to have a good reason to rape, kill.
Pretty fickle. I feel like he said something rude about them. I just think he told secrets. He probably said something that he wasn't supposed to say about them, and they've forgotten him. I don't even think they remember that they cursed him. He's that left over.
That poor person.
You want to tell stories? Okay, go ahead. Tell stories.
Actually, the gods that cursed him aren't even around, and he's still cursed. It's like he's like a prisoner who has been locked away in solitary, and then the world changed, and no one remembered to let him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. So, I have to share you. So I'm going to share you with our glorious audience. I just wanted to warn you, we have the smartest, most attentive. They sit through 3 hours of rain to watch Shakespeare like Packer fans. So they are intentional folks, intentional listeners. So I love our audience. So Carrie Cannon, my associate, my beautiful and wonderful associate's on, and she's going to field some questions for us today. Hello, Carrie.
Hi there. This has been fascinating. Thank you both so much. I'm going to stay off camera so your faces can be as big as possible, because we like to look at them. There's a question for Brenda. Were you aware of the length of time that this development process was? Were you aware? I know I felt like I knew the answer to that. I had no idea.
Hi, there's our poet walking by. Hi. No. And now I think about the way we've done such a good job in creating this new play work. We trying to put together our new playwriting thing and give directors everything they need. So we thought 18 months with actors in a room, like for 3.5 weeks, was like, we thought we were being incredible. We're just scratching the surface, obviously.
To build something from the ground up.
Yeah, we're going to do an 18-month, like 3 different weeks. I'm going to vet it with you now, Lisa. I'm going to send you our idea.
Time, everything's different. I mean, we because we are two, we I suppose, and we build our work off of conversation. So it takes time.
Yeah.
Faster.
Well, also, our second play, The Good Book, the play about the Bible, is much more directly written play. I mean, everything is written. There's no And we did a little bit of improv. There was some improv in that, but that was a much more composed play. And that play we started writing backstage at an Iliad in 2012. And we had our first production in 2015.
So that was just 3 years.
And then we had it again. When was Berkeley? Berkeley Rep was 2019, right?
19, yeah.
Right.
Second production. But, you know, it actually wasn't even, I think it wasn't done until Berkeley Rep. So again, that was 7 years. And part of it's just that, you know, these are big thorny issues. I mean, you know,
Yes.
we're trying to put the Bible on stage. We're trying to figure out. It took us a long time. And I think part of the solution to that play was Lisa's staging. That Lisa, in her physicalization with Rachel as our set designer, in their physicalization, they unlocked something that we couldn't unlock simply by talking about it and writing. It had to be done. Plays have to be done. And then you have to have the audience. You've got to have the audience to know, is what we think we're saying landing anywhere?
Right. Right on.
There's a question about a very specific moment at the end of the play. And we have a patron who'd like to know what is going on internally with the poet when, for you, Dennis, when you delivered that final UC. Was that improvisational based on the day or the performance, or is there something you can share about your own, what that means for you?
You know, the play is incredibly malleable, and Lisa and I did it at Near Theatre Workshop with Stephen Spinella, a remarkable actor. And Stephen did half the shows, and I did half the shows because I'm a coward, and I was not doing 8 shows a week. I was like, I can't do it, 8 shows a week. So Stephen did 4, I did 4. Sometimes he did 5, I did 3. Sometimes I did 5, he did 3. Stephen's version is very different. On any given night, depending on how I felt, depending on how the world felt, and depending on where we were, that line meant everything. It meant everything. I think the direction that, you know, if we had to write the stage direction, I mean, I can't even say that, you know, it's Lisa and I've talked about it. We wrote, do you see, do you see, do you see? And that one's not do you see, that one is you see. And that can either be a statement, and it can be rhetorical, or it can be a last hopeful, real question saying, have I managed to move you? Have you, have I achieved my goal? Will I be released now from my torture? And will I disappear will I go into dust, and will I be done? And, you know, and some nights it means you didn't see, and I know you didn't see, and yet I have to say it. You know, so it's a great vehicle as an actor to simply be honest. And, you know, Lisa knows, she's watched the show. My show can run anywhere from 136 to 144, depending on what's happening in my life, what's happening with my energy, what's happening in the world. Some nights the show is remarkably heavy. It's remarkably tragic and lugubrious. And some nights it's too fast and too funny, you know, but that's the joy of it. And so
That's right.
No definitive answer to that question, unfortunately, but, you know, yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, we've been discussing this because we've produced this play before with the same actor, and now with the same audience. We have an audience that comes and comes and comes. And when he comes back on stage and says, every time I sing this song, I hope it's going to be the last, it is very, now that we're revisiting it, it's very impactful. It's different. We are connected to that actor in the story, and we're seeing it again. And I'm wondering, for both of you, revisiting this play as you have over the years, how your own lenses have changed and how much the world enters into your storytelling. I mean, I think you've hit on that several times, but we're really wrestling with that now, where we are post-pandemic, where we are in the world. The scenic design having shifted somewhat, but the team is the same, where the team is. So I'm wondering where you are now with the piece. That's not too intimate a question. It's we're asking it of ourselves all the time.
I love that you are. I mean, I think that's our responsibility as artists who work in a form which does interact with those with the other people all the time, interacts with an audience. Meaning, if we aren't saying, why are we doing this today?
Yep. Then
we're not doing our jobs. That's what I think. But so that's a great question. I am sitting here right now because I hadn't thought about an Iliad in the last, I don't know, bit. I'm asking myself with the troop drawdown and the 20 years of war in Afghanistan now officially over, and the news reports are, look, this is what the mess hall looks like, empty. I'm sitting here wondering, does that make an Iliad unnecessary now? If what an Iliad is really doing is trying to say, hey, American citizens, just don't forget, people are fighting on your behalf, on our behalf. How do you feel about it? So I'm wondering that right now. But on the other side, I'll say it has been a gift, an amazing gift to me, that this project, which started with us just like talking to each other, is this anything? Is this an idea? Is this worth it? Has life. Beautiful. That others have given it life that is so different from the way we do it.
Yeah.
I'm so delighted. I mean, Dennis, I don't know if you've watched any of it yet, but it's a completely different setting,
right,
from what we do, and it's so interesting. And also, one of the great joys of my life is that I still every once in a while get to see Dennis do this.
Oh yeah.
In order to make that happen, we have created a tourable version and found a great tour producer. And, we only go out like once a year at the most. And now it's going to have been 2 years.
Yeah.
I hope it still is somewhere in Dennis's brain. I am so thankful.
That list of wars has to be in there, because I don't know how you ever relearn that. So
Dennis and all of the actors, male and female, in the country who have learned it and feel it matters to do it. That's very moving to me. So I look forward to I don't know, maybe we'll go to Seoul, South Korea. So and Dennis will pull it up from deep inside his memory banks.
The other thing I'll say about that is that, when we do it, Lisa is still directing me. So Lisa will have an insight, or I'll have an insight, or I'll suddenly change something and kind of go, oh my God, now I know how to play Andromache. Oh my God, it's been 9 years or 12 years. Now I finally figured out what this line means, Yeah. But not only that, it changes because of the audience. So we were doing it in Cairo, and Cairo was the craziest experience ever, because they don't have a tradition of one-man shows speaking to the audience. That's not a Cairene tradition to break the fourth wall. So they were already sort of freaked out by having someone talking at them. And it was electric in that room.
Plus it was 2016 and
2016.
Tahrir Square was still looked like it was under siege. It wasn't, but it still had all the remnants of that. And the culture was, people were trying to make theater, but they had no money. It was really intense experience.
Wow. And we were doing the list of wars, and you get to that one section where it's First Crusade, Second Crusade, Third Crusade, Fourth Crusade, Children's Crusade, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, Eighth, Ninth Crusade, Northern Invasion of Ireland, Northern Invasion of Malta, and suddenly people started laughing, and I went up on lines. I'm like, what's happening? What is that? They're laughing. I went up on lines. I'm like, what is happening? And I got it back together, and that happened a couple of times. Weird reactions, just unusual reactions. They loved it. They loved the show. And what they loved about that was that here was a Western troupe acknowledging the absurdity of what happened to them as a Muslim people.
Right.
The Crusades were an invasion and an attack on the Holy Land at that point.
There were so many of them.
There were so many, and the priests. Yes. Oh my God.
And it was just them kind of going, oh my God, you're actually saying the thing that we've always said.
Mission laugh. Yeah.
And that would never have occurred to me. But of course, so the play plays differently everywhere you go. Every single culture has got a different reaction to history, the history of war, warriors, men and women, power, anger. Of course, these are universal problems, ideas, and it works everywhere. It works in Shanghai, it works in Romania, it works in Chile. In Chile, you're in the home of. We were performing in a neighborhood a part of town, I think if I'm getting this right, Lisa, that were still Pinochet supporters. They were still not that upset at what Pinochet had done. And we're performing in that part of town because Chile is still divided between the very wealthy who are like, what was wrong with what happened? What was wrong with that? Get rid of the communists? So, you know, that was a really interesting audience to be with. Anyway, and, you know, and we were also asked to change certain things in Shanghai and change certain things in Cairo, which we didn't change. And in China, when we mentioned certain things, certain wars, they simply didn't translate
them.
Oh, well, there's that option. I mean, there's that way to go.
And for us as a team, you know, just as theater, as artists, to be able to be with each other over this many years, Rachel's there, our set designer, Lisa's girlfriend, my husband is there, my son is there, our musician, Brian.
Family affair, that's
yeah.
Family affair. Brian Ellingson is there, our stage manager, Lucy, is there, our sound guy, Charles, is there, sometimes a different sound guy, Ben, is there, our stage manager, you know, different stage managers, but we're a troupe. And we've been in hotels together and we slugged, Davison is there.
I love that you use the word troupe. That is so old fashioned.
Totally. It's crazy.
Troupe. I have to tell you, it does get under your skin. I had a fantasy. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm riffing around the word troupe. I just realized as I said it that it's also
a war, true.
Yeah.
Troop and, yeah, nice. Yeah. You are a poet. I was going to say that I had this fantasy of bringing in all these men that I know all these men that have played the part. It'd be really, I said, because when you start talking about Iliad with them, it is like they've been at war in themselves. It infects their being, and all of them are such fanboys of the, you know, they're such fanboys of the story, and so they have such a deep, you know, commitment to the power of the story. So I have this idea of like bring them all together and have an Iliad weekend and let those guys tear that script up and do it. All these different people do it. But
pass off like a relay race.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then maybe they could do it 8 shows a week because
there you go.
That's a lot.
Pass that coat.
Yeah.
We call ourselves Homer's coat because of this idea we have, which is that being Homer is basically putting on a coat. And this was true. I mean, this is what the scholars say about the Homeric tradition. It probably wasn't one person. It's a tradition. So it actually passed from being to being. And if you can bear to wear the coat, then you are Homer.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm going to write that down. I really could talk to you all day and you have very many more important things to do. So I just have to say, just really grateful for your time and your sharing and your work. So
thank you for giving our play life more than once. Really appreciate it. Thank you to the audience. And, you know, stay healthy and make art.
Yes. Yes, we are. We are doing 9 plays this year. So
Congratulations.
Worked really hard to make sure we weren't dormant for another summer. We're really grateful. So thank you guys so much. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Take care.